You were supposed to drain the swamp. You were supposed to be about the little guy. You keep bringing in all these Goldman Sachs and big pocket guys into government like Tillerson. How's that good for the working man and woman?
I think the bottom line is, what do you get done? And the three big things you're going to see next year is a big tax cut, far bigger than I think the House and Senate leadership realized. Trump is very serious about that. On the regulatory side, he's going to do what Reagan did when Reagan took office, start serious deregulation. There are a lot of crazy regulations on the books. He's got a whole list of them. And that's why you see the stocks of small cap companies doing well. They've been hurt most by these kinds of regulations. And then a major overhaul of health care, done in a way where you get a more effective safety net instead of the hodgepodge system we have today. So the key thing, people don't look who's on your team as much as does the team score.
To Chris's point, though, when you let's just take one of those things, because you put a lot out there. Let's just unpack tax reform, right?
Sure.
So history is an indicator for us here. As you well know, the last time we had a big tax holiday, corporate tax holiday, 2004, it was a total failure in terms of job creation and helping sort of middle America. It led to mainly the rich getting richer, which is not problematic if you're helping those you're intending to help, and it was mainly companies buying back their shares. What would be different this time when he cuts the corporate tax rate to 15%, which he'll get through this Republican Congress?
Well, the 2004 thing was a one-shot. One-shots are one-shots. And they don't lead to long-term investing. The 2004 thing brought back $18 billion for the Treasury Department.
Carl Icahn said to me last week, and as you know, he's a big Wall Street guy, he said we should have restrictions on buying back these shares so companies actually have to hire people.
Well, this gets to things like the minimum wage. Trying to force things that you want to have happen don't work. We should have learned that from the 1930s and the 1970s. The way you get investment is what we did in the 80s and in the 90s. And that is, you have a benign tax code. He's not just going to reduce the corporate side, which is going to be huge, but also individual rates as well, and start to simplify, drain the swamp of the tax code. Those two things together are enormous. I was in Indonesia a few days ago. The finance minister said there, she said, "Are you serious about reducing this to 15%, the corporate rate?" And I said, "Yes, I think he is." She said, "Oh my God, all of us are going to have to do it." So you're going to see this pro-business push. The Brits have been doing this for years. The Canadians have been doing it.
Why will it work better than the current reality, which is, sure, your notional rates are much higher, but the practical rate that businesses pay is routinely put at well under 20%. So why would it really be that much better?
It's about 22, 23, but it's disparate. You get disparate results for all different kinds of industries. Some industries can knock it down to virtually zero. Others take the full hit. So why not just declutter the code and bring the whole thing down so you don't have to have an army of tax lawyers?
But the optics are, you're going to help who you are. And if you're a Goldman Sachs guy, you're going to help the big banks. You're going to help the rich. That's what's happened in history. And Trump said he would be different, that he owed those people nothing, that he wouldn't cut deals with the same old cronies. He would drain the swamp. And the joke now has become he's just bringing in bigger alligators.
I mean, his last campaign actually had this ominous image of Goldman Sachs CEO Lloyd Blankfein. I mean, he hammered Goldman on the trail. Now he's got three big Goldman guys in Bannon, Mnuchin, and now Gary Cohn.
Well, Goldman has done, in terms of crony capitalism, a share of it. But what I think
Gary Cohn's the president.
I know, but
and now he's going to run the National Economic Council.
But the thing is, what are the policies? You know, Franklin Roosevelt got a lot of criticism when he brought in Joseph Kennedy to be the first head of the Securities and Exchange Commission, a plunger, a guy who drove stocks down, the kind of guy who normally would go into jail in the modern era. Roosevelt figured this guy knows where everything is. He can get it done. And Kennedy was a successful SEC chairman. And so I think what Trump here is, how do you get these big things done? If you sharply reduce the tax code for individuals and for businesses, especially small businesses, that's a key part of it. He's going to have a fight with the House on this. Getting small business taxes down, getting them deregulated, that's how you start to get the economy moving.
Can I ask, how would you advise him when it comes to all of these companies? This week it's Lockheed Martin. Stock falls 3% on this tweet saying the F-35 program's total way over budget. Then, like just a few days before that, it was Boeing. Well, the Air Force One's too expensive. A few weeks before that, it's Carrier. Can you do that when you're a sitting president, just constantly? I mean, is that the most effective way to change things?
What he's underscoring is, first, it shows he's not a tool of corporate America when each day he's whacking something that he doesn't like out there. But on the Lockheed thing, this is very significant when Mattis becomes Secretary of Defense. Why is it that these weapon systems programs for decades always take 15, 20 years, 3, 4 times, 5 times over budget? The procurement system in the Defense Department hasn't had a really serious review, I don't think, since the early 1960s.
Because they're deep pocket rich guys that are friends with the guys in government, and they get those fat contracts, and now we got a bunch of them in the cabinet.
You know what drives up the cost? just horrendously is the constant changes you make. You know, when you remodel your house, you know, if you start making change orders, price starts really to zoom up. They do this on a daily basis.
Got sweetheart deals also.
And if you clean that out, you get a simplified... I used to head up the oversight board for Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty, and for peculiarity of the laws, we didn't have to go by government contract regulations. So when we put in a new radio transmitter, we could do it at a fraction of the cost of the Voice of America because we didn't have this pile of regulations. You start to remove that out of the way, you're going to get serious savings. But you have to have people who know what the problem is, and that's what I think he's trying to do.
So let's see what the specifics are, what regulations, how the policies come down. We'll have you back on to help guide us through it, why it's good for America.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks for
you.
coming in, Steve.
Thank you.
Let's get the other side. We got Jason Miller, Senior Communications Advisor for the Trump campaign. It's good to see you.
Good morning.
Good luck tomorrow. The email scandal is bad for Hillary Clinton, full stop. That's why they're playing down even this good news for them, or they would say affirmation of what they already believe. Also bad for your campaign, and here's why. In the last 9 days, Donald Trump specifically has been leading the American people to believe that Hillary Clinton is getting indicted, that Comey saying this 9 days ago is the proof. It's going to happen. She's a criminal. Comey's a good man. He did the right thing. Now he's saying it's rigged, Comey's a bad man, and she's still a criminal. Does Donald Trump accept that the FBI has found no crime?
Well, Chris, if you look back at what Mr. Trump said in July when this announcement was made, he said that the FBI came to the wrong conclusion. It doesn't pass the smell test, that all of these things could happen. We could have 5 different people taking the 5th into this investigation, this illegal outside server where we found that classified and confidential and top secret information was run through, including everything with the Clinton Foundation. Right. And to not come to some kind of charges being recommended. Mr. Trump said very clearly that something should have been recommended at that point. When Director Comey came back and they reopened the investigation, going into these 650,000 emails that were on Anthony Weiner's laptop, which again, if you were any other subordinate at the State Department and you had sensitive information on a laptop outside of the scope of work, they would run you out of town so quick and you'd be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. But even then, Mr. Trump said they should have gotten it right back in July.
We don't know what's look, I get the message, I get the spin, you do it well. But you're not running for president of the United States. He is, and usually there's a higher level of responsibility. We don't know what these emails were. We do know there were a lot of dupes. We do know that they were able to go through it. Your candidate is saying they couldn't do it. He's calling Comey a liar. That's what Donald Trump is doing. Well, they don't know what's in those emails. You can't know. Donald Trump can't know. You can't know whether or not the FBI knows how to go through these things. You're not an expert, neither is Trump. But he is lying about the process to undermine confidence with the American voter, and you accept it.
No, not at all. Let me tell you exactly what Mr. Trump has said, is that they bungled this investigation from the beginning, that it doesn't pass the smell test, that they should have gotten this thing right at the beginning.
That's his right to feel that way.
And again,
you can have that opinion.
Even when they came back now, he said he's been very consistent all along. They've done a terrible job with this investigation.
He says you can't go through 650,000 emails in 8 days. You can't do it, folks. He's calling them
Chris,
out as having
look how long it took him to go through the 50,000 emails previously, and what about all the deleted emails from Hillary Clinton? But here's the thing that you're not bringing up right now.
Here, look, and I'll give you your say, but you can't just say the 55,000 thing, and therefore that means 650 should take that many, that much times more, right? Because it's a bigger number. Not true. They were looking for different things in the 55,000. They were developing the software during the first part of the investigation.
Chris, come on.
This
isn't a victory lab for FBI software. I mean,
no, but that's how they did it. You said they can't do it. It took them 6 months to do 50,000. Therefore, it should take that times 5 or 6 to do 650,000. That's not true. They were able to do it in relatively easy because of the software and the teams they had involved.
Chris, you have a former Secretary of State, a former U.S. Senator, a former First Lady, under criminal investigation.
Not good.
For setting up an outside server.
Not good.
Where confidential and classified information was run through. They find 650,000 emails on this laptop of Anthony Weiner. First of all, that's just, I mean, I can't imagine the person who had to go through all of that. And then to go and think, and it's a subordinate who had sensitive information, and we know that Secretary Clinton was extremely careless and reckless, going back to Director Comey's description back in July. And here's the thing that you didn't mention, is the fact that the Clinton Foundation is still under investigation.
Sure.
And so that's still being
looked at. Why would I mention it? We're talking about the emails. Well, obviously, they're under investigation. There are 2 different criminal probes going on. But Comey's talking about this one. And he says all of the emails that they found on Weiner's laptop, and Huma Abedin's going to have to explain how they got on Anthony Weiner's laptop. Their theories, but it's still going on.
Then you know what?
That they had seen them. They'd seen them before. They'd seen them before, and there is no new information. And you don't accept it. You're shaking your head no.
No, don't accept it. They should release all the emails. Let us have a look before Election Day. We think that would be the smart thing to do. But again,
you love transparency when it's not you guys. You don't see any irony in that. Why don't you release your emails? Why don't you release Trump's taxes if you think transparency is such a good thing for the American people?
As soon as his audit is completed, those will be released, and he's been very consistent.
You think anybody believes the audit thing when they're going to the polls tomorrow?
Absolutely.
You have any proof of an audit?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, you do?
Proof of an audit.
Yeah.
But Chris,
have you seen an audit letter?
Chris, let's not get away from the fact. Investigation.
That is the fact, though, right? Transparency only works one way in this election where Trump's involved. You don't want to put anything out.
Chris, I appreciate that for moving away. Secretary Clinton,
I'm just saying what it is.
Foundation is still under.
I'll show you an audit letter I got.
Criminal Well, someday when I get to make as much money as you do, then we'll go and take a look at it.
I don't know what you're making. I hope you're getting paid a lot for this.
The foundation is still under criminal investigation. I mean, think about this.
That's bad.
Right.
But why lie about what's going on with an investigation? Why undermine the FBI?
Chris,
he said
an ethical cloud.
They say
that hanging over the Clintons.
No question. That's why she doesn't want to talk about it.
Right.
Absolutely
That's
true.
why this is the worst good news that they could have.
You could argue it's not good news at all because this has been bad for her. What I'm saying is, why lie about it? Why exaggerate what's going on to your own benefit? And why undermine confidence in the FBI? Especially when you were just praising the FBI a few days ago.
He was very consistent where he said they bungled the investigation to start off with, and they've still bungled it all the way through. He's been very clear with that. What we want to see is transparency.
Do you believe there's going to be an indictment of Hillary Clinton on the emails?
I want justice to be served. I want them to go through, and I want them to finish the investigation.
Do you believe there's going to be an indictment of Hillary Clinton with respect to the emails?
It's not my job to be an investigator.
The FBI just said no, you won't accept that.
I'm not an investigator. I don't work at the FBI or the DOJ, but I think there's been terrible transparency. They should go ahead and put those out. Let us see what's in there. And I think the fact that there's still a criminal investigation into the Clinton Foundation.
True.
And going into Election Day, that's a very bad place to be.
No question. Jason Miller?
Chris, on behalf of the Trump campaign, I want to say thank you very much for being a class act in this process. And tomorrow, get out and vote. Mr. Trump wants to be a president for all Americans. He's running strong. He wants to change Washington. He would appreciate your vote. He would like everyone else's vote as well.
Jason Miller, thank you for being here. Good luck on Election Day. You're always welcome on New Day.
Thanks, Chris.
Allison.